Hey, Dr. Keith Johnson here, America's #1 confidence coach. I hope you are creating a fantastic day. I am right now in Seattle, Washington, having a great time. Very, very busy schedule. But before I tell you what's going on right now, I just want to tell you, man, I'm getting ready to tell you some things that's really going to give you some great wisdom for the future. If you've ever been attacked by somebody before, if you ever have had a close relationship leave you and exit your life, I'm going to give you some wisdom today on how to handle that. That's really going to help you. So before I do that, just want to tell you where I'm at. I'm in Seattle, Washington, and had a great time this morning. I spoke to a bunch of leaders at a church and a big nonprofit ministry that's here that ministers to prisoners who are in the between spot where they just come out of prison. They don't have any places to go. The families disown them. They will literally walk out on the streets and be homeless. And this wonderful man of God takes these prisoners in. He has something like 38 homes, apartment buildings all over this city, and he takes all of these prisoners in right out of the prison, and he helps them and ministers to them and gets them work and gets them jobs. Amazing work going on here. So I spoke with them this morning, training his 30-something leaders of his different homes. That was a real blessing in my life. And tonight I head back to a church to do a service. Going to be talking about confidence. Tomorrow I go to another church. Sunday morning, Sunday night, I'll be speaking. Yes, I will be doing my dream of speaking and changing people's lives, not watching the Super Bowl, watching other people fulfill their dreams. No, I won't be participating in the Super Bowl tomorrow. Got better things to do than to clap over somebody else's touchdowns and achievements. Won't be clapping over my own, building my own dream. So that's going to be great. Then Monday I preach at another church. So really busy. So I want to tell you about what happened this week. I got attacked. I faced an attack. From another business person that a person that I don't want to tell all the details, but a person who owns a business in my area, and the person attacked me personally, attacked me professionally, attacked my integrity, and attacked my motives, and just every area. It was quite, to be honest with you, it's quite shocking. It came out of nowhere. Have you ever had that? Have you ever had like somebody just all of a sudden, just from nowhere, it felt like just, it's like stab you in the back and do something really hurtful to you? Yeah, well, you know what I'm talking about. It was one of those moments, and it was very interesting because I often say that, sometimes in relationships, right? There's time to end a relationship. Sometimes seasons just change, and it's just time to, move out of one relationship and go on about your way. And when you exit a relationship, it seems like everybody kind of has this thing where it's like you gotta attack the other person. You know what I mean? It's like you gotta make the other person feel bad instead of just transitioning and, making everything okay. Not attacking the person, Because I have a belief for me, okay? And I learned it a long time ago from Tommy Barnett. Tommy Barnett made this statement, and I've tried to practice this in my life for years, since I heard it in my 20s, Pastor Tommy Barnett. And he said this, he said, those who you include in your circle of love will eventually help you. Those who you exclude from your circle of love will eventually have the power to maybe hurt you. Wow, I want you to get that. Real good nugget. The people you leave in your circle of love can eventually at some time help you. But those who you decide to leave outside of your circle of love, they have the potential to possibly hurt you. And so the theme was try hard to keep as many people in your circle of love that you can. And one of the things that I found out after, I've been practicing that principle since my 20s. And you know what I found out? I found out that when you practice that principle, that when you have to exit a relationship, or even sometimes relationships exit your life, and you didn't anticipate it, you didn't necessarily want it, things happen, it's out of your control, you can't control other people's opinions, thoughts, their issues, you can't control it. But you can control how you respond. And if you think in terms of, I need to keep this person in my circle of love. I want to do everything I possibly can. And the scriptures teach us to work at keeping peace with all men as much as it's within our power. And there's a lot of wisdom in that. I've seen that over the years, because I've seen times where people have left my life and I've kept them in my circle of love. And because I kept them in my circle of love, I continued to be kind to them, even maybe when they weren't kind to me. I continued to do good to them, even though I knew they were doing bad things behind my back. But I still kept them. I knew they were talking about me, criticizing. I knew all of that. But I continued to operate in love towards that person. You know what's interesting is that when you look at it through the long haul, what you'll find is many times when you leave someone in your circle of love, it'll come full circle on you. And what'll happen is in the future, I've had people who, kicked me to the curb, did me wrong, said hurtful things, whatever. And yet in the future, because I kept them in my circle of love, in the future, it eventually came back to me where something positive, something good happened because of that relationship. I want you to think about that. And yet I've also failed. I've failed to sometimes, the hurt got me a couple times, and I've excluded people from my circle of love, only to look back later on in my life, and the people who I excluded, would hurt me, would do things and did things to try to hurt me in different ways. So I hope you're getting what I'm throwing down here. If you are, just give me a heart, say yes in the comment box below. So I just want to encourage you I want to encourage you. My arm's getting a little sore there. I want to encourage you to think in these manner, in this way, and have the wisdom to understand the importance of this principle. Keep as many people in your circle of love, no matter what. And because they will eventually help you. I've seen that a lot of times. I've seen that a lot of times. I know had some challenges, had some issues with one of my family members. We were at odds for a while. I said, man, I got to get this person back in my circle of love. I worked on it. I worked on it. I worked on it. I worked on it. And finally, it came back together. The relationship came back together. And you know what? One of those relationships, when it was time, I remember when it was time for me to to publish one of my books. I needed something like $15,000, and the person that I was at odds at, that was outside of my circle of love for a while, and I put back inside, that person ended up funding that whole project for me. See what I'm talking about? Those kind of things can happen. So I just wanted to encourage you with this today, to remember that. The other thing that I want to point out to you is it's really important that you are careful who you criticize, who you attack. So meaning, it would be ridiculous for me. I want you to think about this. It would be ridiculous for me to attack anybody that's an expert in their field. It'd be ridiculous. Like, it would be ridiculous for me to attack Warren Buffett and go around and say that, bad things about him, criticize him, put him down, because he's in the top 0.5% of investors in the world. He's the very best at what he does. So unless you've been where he's at, unless you know what he knows, you're clueless. You're clueless. And I find a lot of times that people, they get critical. They get critical about people who are in the upper 10, 5, 2% of people in the world, because they just don't get it. It's like I shared a thing today with Bishop T.D. Jakes. He was talking about keeping your giraffe vision. Giraffes have really tall heads and they see out far. They look out far. And he was talking about the difference between giraffes and turtles. And giraffes live at a higher plane. They live at a higher level. They see things that turtles can't see. You see, a turtle doesn't understand what the vegetation is like at the top of the tree. The turtle doesn't understand. You've never been there. You've never tasted it. You have absolutely no clue what you're talking about, because you're a turtle. The only thing turtles understand is the grass. What the grass tastes like. They don't know. They don't know what the upper levels, because you're not there. You've never been there. And so you have to be careful. You have to have an accurate assessment of yourself. And one of the things you don't want to be is, you don't want to be a person out there that's a turtle, but you're criticizing the giraffes who are doing big things in the earth. I see this all the time amongst preachers. I really do. I see preachers who have smaller churches criticizing pastors who are in the top 10%, 5%. I see the smaller pastors criticizing the bigger pastors. And I say, wow, that person, because I run with both. I help pastors of mega-sized churches. I also help church pastors of small churches. So I help both. I've seen behind the scenes in both of those scenarios. So I understand what's going on. But see, if you're a pastor of a small church, or if you're an amateur at what you do, you don't understand what it's like to function and operate at higher levels. And what you really have to do is you really have to be careful, especially when you're not an expert. You're not an expert. Like, for instance, the guy that I got attacked by, he wasn't an expert. He's not an expert in his field. Now, for me, when you look at the big picture, I'm in the top 10% of speakers. I mean, international speaker, been all over the world, coaching, America's #1 confidence coach, best-selling author. I mean, I'm in the top 5% of people who do what I do, literally in the world. Now, the person who attacks me is in a small little area, has a business in a small little area, small little community, in a small little shop. And so in that area that he's in, I want you to get this. Because he's in a small little area, he's the big fish in his area. So he thinks he knows everything. So his ego is really big to think, he's a crappie, but he thinks he can go and attack a whale. Does that make sense? Because in his little pond, he's in a little tiny pond. And in his little pond, he hasn't inflated the ego because everybody else around him are smaller than him. So you have to be careful that when you're in a smaller church or you're not in the top 10%, that you don't get this thing where you have an exaggerated opinion of yourself, that you stay humble. Because in order to become an expert, you got to learn. Experts don't really think they are. They're always thinking, I got to learn more. I don't know everything I know. I need to know. And so I wanted to really encourage you with this story. And it was just interesting to me as this happened to me. And I'm sitting there, I know who I am, and I know what I do, and I know what I bring to the table. But I'm sitting there as an expert looking at a person who I know is not an expert at what they do. And I mean, within their pond, they're the expert. But in the big picture, the person doesn't have a website. The person doesn't have any kind of social media presence. The person doesn't, from a global perspective, nobody knows who this person is. And so it's very funny. And so I just want to encourage you today. Number one, be careful who you criticize. Try to keep people in your circle of love. This person that I'm talking about that attacked me, I didn't go off on him. I didn't, do anything bad. I just tried to say, okay. Tried to explain my vantage point. It's the giraffe. You're up on the trees. It's hard to explain to the turtles what the top of the branches of the trees taste like, what it's like up here. You don't know, but you try to keep people in the proper perspective. So the interesting thing about this whole story is I did what I felt I could do to keep this person in my circle of love, and will continue to do that. But it was funny that It started off at the beginning of the week, and then at the end of the week already, I had to make a decision. It was a business decision to decide whether this person could actually keep some money in their pocket or take it away out of their pocket. So if you look at it, see, this person excluded me from his circle of love. Now I had the power, I had the power this week to give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. And this person it could have cost this person some money. But of course, I'm not like that. You know, I'm a guy of mercy. I'm a guy of grace, and I want to keep this person in my circle of love. And I did the right thing and showed him mercy where I didn't have to. So it's just I want you to see how this stuff can come back on you if you're not really, if you're not really careful. So to my friends out there, I want to encourage you that if you're in a smaller church, and if you have a smaller anything, you're in a smaller church, you have a smaller business, whatever, don't criticize those. Never, ever, ever. Like I said at the beginning, I would never criticize the intentions of world-class people at world class. It's not for me to judge. I've never been there. I've never experienced what they've experienced. No. It would be ridiculous for me to criticize Warren Buffett on his investment strategies. That would be ridiculous. I don't know nothing about it. So in the same way, when you're where you're at, be realistic with yourself and be humble, and don't criticize people like that, but study them, learn from them, and have a humble heart. This one guy, he had a desire, very popular leadership trainer. I'm not going to say his name. He had a desire to help small churches. So he invested in a team of coaches. He poured his life into these coaches and said, listen, I'm going to give you a list. He gave them a list of thousands and thousands of small churches to call and said, go out there and I want you to go help these pastors. I want you to coach these pastors. And we're not going to charge them very much. I'm going to fund almost all of it. They're going to have to pay because it's just good for them to pay something. And he sent all these guys out. They made all these phone calls. They came back to the pastor, and they had hardly any bookings. They came back to the pastor, and they said, Pastor, the pastor says, well, why are you guys not working? Why are you not out there? They're like, Pastor, we've been calling. We called one church after the next church, all these small churches that need help. He said, but Pastor, they don't want it. They don't want it. What is that, my friend? It's what I just told you. It's a fish that's in a small pond, but because it's in a small pond, that fish is the biggest fish in the pond. They think they're the big daddy. They got full of pride. And so they're sitting in their little pond criticizing everybody else, putting down everybody else. They've become the critic inside of their little pond. And the guy said, we just can't get anybody. And so the guy shut down the whole ministry. He said, man, we just could not. And this was all across the United States. So all of these guys, they found that some of the most prideful leaders literally in the church were guys with small churches, small church pastors. I did the same thing. There was a season in my life where I said, okay, I'm going to go from one city to the next city. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on a breakfast for pastors, free breakfast. I'm paying for it. Come, I'm going to have a leadership training, grow your church type focus. I'm going to buy the breakfast. Come on, free everything, free workbooks, free everything. And we'd market it. We'd market it across these cities. And I was going to go to one city after the next city. And it was amazing. You know what we found out? When we would do that, now in my mind, I was thinking, man, we're going to get a ton of small churches to show up for this. We're going to get a lot of churches with pastors with smaller churches. And you know what we found? We found that the guys with the smaller churches didn't show up. Guess who showed up? It was actually the guys with the larger churches. That totally blew us away. So we didn't have the numbers that we thought we were going to have, because we thought, man, we're going to this big city. Surely there'll be, hundreds of small church pastors to come get free coaching, free training. Surely, man, we won't have enough room. We show up, I think there was like 25 people. 25 people. We're like, 25 people. All this work, all this effort. But you know what? Those 25, maybe 5 of them were smaller church pastors. 20 of them were all guys who had larger works. Why? Because many of us, sometimes we think the bigger pastor has more pride. But really, what I found, when you work with people with larger ministries, they are always passionate about, man, I got to learn more. I got to stay on the edge. I've got to go to conferences. I've got to read books. I've got to learn more. I've got to stay fresh. I've got to stay on the edge. And so you find a greater humility. I know this sounds different to you, but I've been in this industry for a long time. You'll find a greater humility the bigger the church. And what you'll find is a lot of pride and arrogance in people with smaller churches. So that's just my nugget for you today. That's something I'm just sharing out of my life experience of something that happened to me this week, but it really has, stirred me in just thinking about this whole dynamic of what I run into all the time. I run into this situation all the time. And so I want to just encourage you, take home that wisdom. You're going to be attacked. Being attacked's normal. If you're not being attacked by somebody, you're not really doing anything. You're not really saying anything. You're not trying to make a difference. Haters will hate. People are going to come after you, but that's okay. Just rejoice, man. It's just proof you're heading in the right direction. That's the way I look at it. But, try to keep the people who you can in your inner circle of love, because they'll eventually help you someday. And it's kind of like I remember when Chick-fil-A, they kind of made a stand in their company against some sort of the gay rights or whatever. I can't remember what it was. And they had all these picketers around Chick-fil-A. A lot of the gay people from the gay community started picking around Chick-fil-A. And remember what they did? It was really cool. They went out there and they started handing out water bottles to them and started giving them food to eat. And I thought that was, that's the way we handle stuff. That's the way you do it. That's taking the higher road. So I hope this has really encouraged you today. And if you're a leader and you got attacked and you get attacked, just remember that when you're a draft and you're seeing bigger things and you're eating up on a higher level, there's some people that they're just not going to get it. They're just not going to get it. Why? Because they're turtles. And what do turtles want to do? They can only see the grass. They can't see where you can see. And part of that for me is, it's all right. I get it. You just can't see it. And it kind of helps you get over it, you know, really, when you see it that way. But the one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to ever get in a fight. You don't want to get down and get in a fight with a turtle. You're the giraffe, man. Remember, you're the giraffe. You're the giraffe. Keep seeing big. Keep believing big. Keep your focus on the future. See the bigger picture. Keep eating at that higher level. And don't stoop. Don't stoop to, you know, the criticism of the turtles that's trying to get you to compromise your vision, trying to get you to doubt yourself, trying to get you to be uncertain. That's just not healthy for you as a leader. So I hope you have enjoyed this today, this little bit of wisdom. And thank you for joining me. Hey, if you've enjoyed this, would you just share it? Just hit the share button. I would appreciate it. And if you can, just give me a post down below. Say hi. Tell me where you're from. I love to hear from you. And I appreciate all your comments. I answered all of them back. And I want you to have a great day. I'm getting ready to head out. Got to go do a service here in just a little bit. And looking forward to Monday. Monday, I'll be speaking at a prison here in Seattle. I guess there'll be, I think they said 200 prisoners that I'll be speaking to. And they said, man, these people, they need confidence big time. So I'm excited. I'm going to be going there and dedicating my time and just pouring my life into these prisoners to believe God, man, that no matter how bad things are, that they can come out, that they can turn things around, that their future is brighter and better than their present. That's right. But to use crisis as a school. Crisis is the classroom that empowers us to change and transform our life. Thank you. I see all of you posting down below. Thank you, Kevin from South Africa. Wow, it's good to see you. Good to see you, Miss Cotton. I'm witnessing it now. Some folks fear you rising. I understand, and I am going to keep it moving. There it is. There it is. Don't forget, you got to battle envy. Some people just envy people. You got jealousy going around. Small pond, small vision, very small impact, large egos. That's right, Roger. You got it, buddy. That's it. Yes. We're too busy running combine harvest machines to get off to kill rats. Oh yeah. Okay, buddy. They're my friend Jay Hunter, my friend Raphael, my friend Thomas, LeJean Cole. What an awesome, great man of God he is. Brian, thanks for joining us. My wife, Tony Kimball, thanks for watching. Will you guys some of you who are watching, will you just respond? How do you feel about this talk today? Seriously, how do you feel about this talk? Did this help you? And give me some of your thoughts. We have some great men of God watching right now. Don't just sit there and watch. Just give me a couple of your thoughts. I really would like to hear it about some of the things that I talked about today. And let's dialogue and let's talk about it. So all of you have a great day. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Use crisis as a classroom. Yes. That's so true. So, hey, I got to get going. We'll talk to you later. God bless.